Welcome to the Too Busy to Eat show. I'm Greg Zuffalato, the host of this show, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Too Busy to Eat, the protein bar company. Now, before I get to our guest today, I want to encourage you to go to our website and check out our protein bars. TooBusyToEat.com. We have protein bars that are made from the best ingredients. They taste amazing and they're really healthy for you. So if you're on the go and you're busy, too busy to eat, you need to grab our bars. Now I want to give you an incentive to try them out and a little thank you for listening to this show too. As a 20% off discount, you can use TBTE show on the discount code as a checkout and get 20% off anything on our website. So go to our website, check it out. Now for today's guest. So if you've ever had issues sleeping, like me, starting this company is challenging, and I'm not alone. All of you have stresses in your life, and sleep sometimes is an issue. So Michael Lares, he has a very fascinating background and tragic. Some part of it. He and I'm not going to share all the details yet, but he started as a U.S. Navy diver. Then he had a underwater diving company for a number of years. Stress really got to him. And he had some health issues. His wife had a terrible accident, and she had major health issues for a number of years. And through this, he discovered this technology from Dr. Bart Flick. That basically it's a technology that helps you sleep. And his website is deltasleeper.com, and we'll share more information about how to get a hold of him. But the whole, the deltasleeper.com is a place for information on sleep. Not only their, the product is there that helps you sleep, but also tons of information. So let's get to Michael. Let's listen to what he has to say and enjoy the show. Well, welcome, Michael. I am personally excited. Like I mentioned already, I'm excited to have you on the show for personal reasons, but I know you're helping a lot of people, and I know your story is going to help people. So just thanks for taking the time to be on the Too Busy to Eat show.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me. The snow's flying and the fires are burning up here in British Columbia.
That is awesome. You're getting what's the weather there?
There's 21 degrees and sunny, but it's snowing.
Okay, it's snowing and sunny. It's beautiful. I'm sure that's nice. I'm in Southern California, so I'm in Santa Barbara, and it's like 70 degrees. So we got the extremes here.
Yeah, you don't have too many seasons down that way, do you?
No. We got to go, to the mountains to get out of town 5-6 hours to get up to enjoy what you're enjoying right now. So, you can have
the best of both worlds down there just with a few hour drive, can't you?
Yeah. But it's, there's a pretty area, but just reading about you, listening to your story on other podcasts, it was really fascinating. I just want to, I know you're going to be able to help so many people. So why don't you give us your little bit of your background? Because leading up to where you are today.
Well, I'm almost 52. I've had a few companies and had a 25-year commercial diving career. Right. I owned the company for 20 years. So it was pretty high pressure stuff, a lot of dangerous work, always on edge, but that's what I chose to do. No big deal. Well, back, the way this all started with the sleep technology and helping people improve their sleep, it's kind of an odd story, kind of an ugly beginning, actually.
Right.
Back in 2005, when my son was born, I've got two children. 13 and 11 now.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
When my son was born in 2005, a couple hours after my wife gave birth, everything was fine. 2 hours of bliss, we call it.
Right. Yeah. 2 hours.
Had to use the bath. Yeah. Well, based on what I'm about to tell you, yeah. 2 hours after the birth, she had to go to the bathroom for the first time. That's always a precarious moment for women because there's been so much blood loss.
Right.
Well, without getting too detailed about exactly what happened, she fell face first on the concrete floor.
Oh.
the nurse just turned her back for a brief second to get a chair, and she blacked out. And so she sustained a lot of face injuries off of that.
Oh,
and, after 2 years of dealing with, surgeries, reconstructive surgeries, root canals, everything to try and improve her state of health. The hospital finally just cut us loose,
Oh my gosh.
And so what we did was, we went from traditional Western medicine, pharmaceuticals, and, again, surgeries to, all right, natural path remedies and whatnot.
Yep.
So we ran across a phenomenal doctor named Dr. Solomon, who I really attribute saving my wife's life to.
Wow.
Because they were getting ready to put my wife on anti-seizure medication because she was having seizures from all the neuropathic issues.
Right.
And it was a tough couple of years.
Wow. Yeah. And having a brand new baby. I mean, that's just like on top of everything. Oh my gosh. Can't imagine.
Oh, and she breastfed for the whole, for 8 months. And they said the meds that she were on, there's a lot she couldn't do because she was breastfeeding, but she didn't want to not. So, it was craziness. We don't have a lot of time to get into it, so I'll move on. But
you definitely said that's a tough situation to be in. Yeah.
Yeah. But, so we were on this path of healing and exploring everything we could. So we hooked up with this Dr. Solomon.
Dr. Solomon, yeah.
She actually figured out that my wife wasn't having seizures. She was having anxiety attacks.
Oh, wow.
And it was a body response to, adrenal fatigue and being in pain for so long and such intense pain. And then all the neuropathic issues that came with a broken palate, and all the face injuries. So she got my attention, of course, and we really believed in this doctor. So, surprisingly enough, through all this, I was getting really bad migraines, and she couldn't do a whole lot for my migraines, but she directed me to a doctor named Dr. Bart Flick.
Right.
He said, this guy he's a brilliant doctor. He's into some very alternative new technologies. I think he might be able to do something for you. So, I really trusted her. She trusted him. So she set me up with an appointment with him, and he did a brain scan on me to find out where my migraine threshold was. And he says, we've got a technology we can use on you. It's a PEMF technology, pulsed electro-magnetic field.
Okay.
And it'll assist with your migraines. So he says $500. If it works for you, you can give me $500.
Right.
If it doesn't, just give me the device back.
Right.
And within the first month of using the device, I was no longer getting migraines.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I got Dr. Solomon healing my wife. I've got this doctor that just got rid of my migraines. So we became really good friends.
Right.
And, kind of a brain trust, if you will. And he was really excited about other projects he was working on. He says, well, here's what we're working on now. Now, this is 2010.
Okay.
So this is 5 years after the accident. So
okay. And your wife at that point is not fully recovered, but she's on the road.
She's doing much better.
Much better.
She's doing much better. Yeah. Finally, we could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's
And I'm trying to stay on point with the sleep, but this is how it began.
No, sure.
So,
absolutely.
I said, well, obviously I believe in your technologies because you've gotten rid of my migraines, and I'm seeing the things that Dr. Solomon's doing with my wife, because she's doing some mild PEMF with my wife.
Okay.
So he says, well, we're kicking off this sleep technology project. We've barely got a prototype designed. He says, we've been working on it for some time, and we're looking for investors. If we could just get one investor involved, keep it nice and tight, smug, and keep it, simple. I said, I'm your guy. So this is back in I said, I'm your guy. I retired.
It works.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it was, anybody that's had migraines,
okay.
You're looking to do a deal with anybody, anything to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So if you can get, I tried a lot of the stuff that's out there, and, man, it's so tasking on your system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, to get rid of a migraine with with a non-intrusive type technology and have it work. I was a believer. So I said, I'm your guy. And, in 2010, we pulled this company together, Somniresonance, and it took 2.5 years to get the prototype developed.
Okay.
Originally it was, it's a little 1/2 ounce device now, but originally it was just a big halo type device with wires and a control module, and
right.
it was kind of mad science. But over the years, we got the prototype down to where it is today. And at the end of 2013, we went to UL Underwriters Laboratory, got certified through UL, and then we stepped into the FDA campaign.
Okay, right.
In 2014, and that went on for over a year.
I'm sure.
So in the middle. In the beginning of 2015, the FDA came back and said, this device is so safe, you don't even warrant, turning in a 510K, submitting a 510K, or having to be cleared by the FDA. So we're going to classify you as the lowest risk possible under the general wellness category.
Yeah.
And so, in 2015, mid 2015, we started selling through clinicians and physicians. Okay. And then the FDA came back 2 months later and said, well, this device is so safe that you can go to the end user. You don't have to have it controlled or have a prescription, from a physician or a clinician through a clinician. So, I looked to the board, these gentlemen, in mid 2015, I said, so what do you guys have on the table? Because, at this point, I'm basically just like an angel investor. I sit in on the board, but I'm not part of the day-to-day. Yeah. I'm up here. By that time, I'm up here in Canada. Ranch up here. So right. I just stay in touch with the guys on the phone, every few months or whatever. And so when the FDA came back, they gave me the news. I said, what do you guys have put together to go to the end user? And we said, actually, we did not anticipate this. We don't have anybody. Right. And the FDA, when they came back with the clearance or the classification, they also came back with, you better watch, we're going to allow you to promote this technology to the entire sleep disorder market. Okay. But you got to be careful how you brand it. We don't want you out there making claims that you cannot make. Right. So, the FDA, everybody knows what the FDA does and what they're about. So it was important for us to launch this campaign to the end user, but be very mindful of how we branded the technology to the end user. So I went ahead and I just created this company, DSleep, the deltasleeper.com, so I could hold close to vest how it was branded, how it was marketed, and how we presented the technology to the end user, the everyday person. Right. So we started a DSleep at the end of 2015. So really, we only got launched in early 2016. Okay. So we've been on the open market now for over a year. Okay. Just over a year. Right. It's been a phenomenal year. So I'm sure. So that's where it started. It started from an accident that put us into a level of exploration with, the human body and healing and triggers for problems and causes for problems. And, through that entire campaign, even my 20-year diving career, 5-6 hours sleep was normal. 5 hours was pretty much all you really allowed yourself to get because, being a young guy starting at 24, 25, you got a social life. Yeah. Then you got to, I had a military career. I was in the military. I was a military diver before that. So sleep was kind of optional. So I just carried that theory through the next 20, 25 years of my life. And only when I got involved with, post-accident situation with my wife and then with these doctors did I realize just how absolutely important sleep is, and especially the impact on your nervous system. Right. So it's been a real eye-opener for me, just a sleep campaign, especially over the last year and a half, 2 years. Right. But, for the last 6-7 years being involved with these doctors. So I'm a walking, talking billboard about, sympathetic stress and adrenal fatigue syndrome, if they want to call it a syndrome, and then seeing the benefits of sleep and the benefits of quantifying my sleep through tracking technology, quantifying technology they have out there now. So there's our website, deltasleeper.com, is not only an effort to, market a product to help people. It's also an information chain to share a lot of the stories from our clients. We just revamped our website and actually just launched the new website over the weekend here, this past weekend. It's the end of January now. I'm not sure when this podcast is going to launch, but so it's chock full of technical details, a lot of reviews, a lot of the media that the technology's received over the last year, from being in news articles to being on other releases, media releases. So the website is that one thing the FDA also wanted us to do was be information. Good, clean information, I guess, because they knew they knew that we knew they were watching.
Sure, right.
So they were going to watch close. There, everything on our website, every comment, every statement made has been reviewed by the FDA and it's being watched by the FDA. Yeah. I can tell you this now, that other technologies out there, no disrespect intended to any of them, there's some brilliant stuff out there.
Right.
Not being biased, I think we're the best one for sleep, but we're probably the only website out there being strictly monitored by the FDA, because we purposely got on their radar. We purposely approached them with a 510K. So because the doctors, they've been in this game for decades, and they wanted to create a technology that would work, that was safe, that was certified safe, and at least went through through FDA, so they didn't have to look over their shoulder. So when we hit the market, everything was clean and above board, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, and groundbreaking technology. So that's going to attract a lot of attention. So you went through the right channels to make sure you could get it to the people and get it out and not have any hiccups along the way, which is great. You did your homework.
Yeah, it's been a fun project. It's very time consuming. It's not something I was looking to do. We bought a ranch up here in British Columbia, Canada. I retired from diving in 2010.
Okay.
We got 2 small children, young children. Now they're growing fast.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know it goes fast.
But the whole effort back in 2010 was, okay, how can we help people? I've always created projects and companies that, everybody wins, try to help as many people as you can. So, we're sitting on a little money. When I retired from diving back in 2010, it was like, okay, how can we optimize this investment? How can we optimize this money, help as many people as we could? Well, synchronicity, if you will. Yeah. So that's where I put a lot of the money was into this project here. Yeah. So 5-6 years later, I never anticipated being on the front lines like this with
driving it forward.
But here we are. It's a lot of fun. It's it doesn't work on absolutely everybody, but we have a very high success rate. And through physicians, this technology is amazing because physicians have the focus of the patient. Right. They have the strict regimen of the patient. And a lot of the physicians out there that are using the SR1 with their patients are actually diagnosing source problems with their sleep disorders or sleep issues based on the body response or lack of body response to the technology. Right. Selling through physicians and clinicians was always the original idea because of this sophisticated, medical device. Yeah.
So now that we go to the end user.
And now we go to the end user, it's like I'm barely qualified to be that guy, because I'm not a physician or clinician, but it's so simple. It's just a simple on-off button. Right. It's a small device that you wear, with medical adhesive. So, but there's such a science around it, a physical science, and every client that buys one, they have a story. Yeah. And it's not always a real easy story. If people are having sleep, originally it's designed for people with sleep disorders. Well, anybody that's got a sleep disorder just knows the hard impact that has on your life, and especially year after year, decade after decade. Yeah. I mean, we've helped clients with, 2 decades of sleep disorder. Oh man. Issues. Yeah, so, absolutely. That's
life-changing for them. Well, what's the not to get too deep into it, but the science behind it, like what is it? I've read a little bit about it. Can you give us a little bit of what it does?
Yeah, it's pulse electromagnetic field, and the industry term is PEMF. Yep. There's hacking. There's the term biohacking. Yeah, right. Now that people are using it, honestly, when I got involved with this, that term kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But it's biohacking is just basically hacking the biology of the human body with different principles of different applications, like supplementation. And this one happens to be bioelectrics, electromagnetic therapy. So the device is basically a small computer with a magnet system in it that puts out electromagnetic pulse.
Okay.
And the brain frequencies and sleep frequencies run at a certain, hertz, and they have a certain output. They have a certain frequency they put out. So the doctors invented this device to mimic those brain waves. One of the more significant of the multi-frequencies that it is programmed with is deep sleep frequency.
Right. So
basically, this small device has an output of a half a Gauss, which was, the Earth output of the Earth is 0.25 to 0.6 Gauss.
Okay.
So the output of this device is 0.5. So it's within the same natural bioelectric or electrics, the magnetics of the Earth.
Right. Yeah.
So it's completely safe. It's not like you're getting a high exposure to some kind of foreign frequency.
Sure.
Because they really, with all these other technologies out there, they don't know what prolonged effects there are on the human body to expose yourself to. They're just starting to figure that out now with cell phone radiation.
That's right.
But a lot of the other stronger technologies out there, they don't have enough data showing what the long-term exposure is on, what the implications on the body, if any, are. So the reason the doctor designed this one at 0.5 Gauss is to also be within the natural exposure limit, rates and normal daily exposures as the Earth puts on the human body, which is completely natural.
Natural, right. And that's
So with an output of 0.5 Gauss and the frequencies at the natural brain frequencies of sleep, because there's various frequencies for the various stages of sleep.
Yeah.
The device mimics sleep, and the brain picks up on that, and it just gently nudges the brain to pick up that pattern and then fall into its own normal sleep cycles.
Right.
So the device times out. We designed the device to time out after 22 minutes because we don't want to hold the brain in a state of any particular stage of sleep.
Right.
It's meant to encourage the brain to function properly, function naturally. And it's mind-boggling how many clients, all they need is that little gentle nudge.
Right.
Boom, they're sleeping great, sleeping normal again.
Yeah. It's like a reboot to get everything on track. Yeah.
Yeah, we're resetting circadian rhythm in people that have had circadian rhythm issues for over a decade, 15, 20 years, so like I was saying before. So it's just amazing how the body responds to just this real light, very conservative frequency of sleep. So, and that's the beauty behind the device. It's completely safe. We just recommend, because we don't have the data, not because there is known implications, we just recommend that women who are pregnant don't use the device.
Right. And
anybody that has a pacemaker don't use the device because we just don't have the data that states that could have a negative implication on it. Not that it does.
There's no negative data, but there's no data. Yeah. You'd have to,
So if we don't have the data, we don't put the promotion there. We don't make the statement, because remember, FDA's watching. If we made that statement, they'd slam us, they'd shut us down, they'd make us run clinical trials on 50 pregnant women or 50. We just don't know, so we don't make the statement.
Right.
The device. So it runs off the pulse electromagnetics, which the entire body does anyway.
Yep.
And they just invented this device to mimic the sleep patterns of the brain. It's actually quite brilliant, especially the fact that it's so non-intrusive and so safe. So if you're on pharmaceuticals for sleep, like benzos and whatnot, then there's a step-off program.
Okay.
You start lowering your dosage. We recommend you work with your doctor. You lower your dosages over 2-week periods until you ultimately, the device takes over the place of the pharmaceuticals. And then I've got so many clients that after 6, 7, 8 months, they hardly even use the device anymore.
They're back to normal. Right.
They are pretty much reset. So they'll use the device as kind of a maintenance tool, if they start getting restless. Myself, because I've I've in such sympathetic stress from being just such a hard charger for so many years. I'm still balancing out my nervous system.
Right.
I check my HRV. I try to check my HRV every day in the morning. There's links to all that on our website. We talk about heart rate variability and the positive impact on that over time with improved sleep. I monitor myself with a couple of quantifying technologies. One's a Whoop, one's a Oura Ring. I wear them both every day, all day long.
Okay.
Those are great tools for quantifying your sleep and your day-to-day activity. So I'm at 51, 52 years old. I am still repairing, nervous system impact, damage, if you want to call it damage. Yeah. I just need to rebalance, put myself in from, being in the military, always being a hard charger, then 20 years of blood and guts, underwater construction and engineering and dangerous work, and worrying about crews every day, every night, because it's dangerous work. Somebody can easily get injured or killed any time. It's
one of the most dangerous jobs, correct? I mean, underwater. Yeah,
I think it's top three.
Yeah.
I think it's top three. Yep. We've done stuff where it should be top one, but no disrespect to those guys out there on electrical lines and stuff. But and then taking that hard ride with my wife and children, for several years, and just watching somebody suffer. And I mean, I got financially hammered for over $1 million in just 2 years after the accident, just from, having to hire crews to take over jobs and to stay home and heal my wife, and then medical bills and just everything. So, I mean, if that doesn't cause sympathetic stress on a man, I don't know what will.
No, that seeing your wife in that state, that would put most people over the edge. Yeah. But now
I got a couple wrinkles off it.
Yeah, you should. I'm sure you did. Oh man. But over time through this technology, through Dr. Solomon, I mean, you're healing yourself, and you're feeling like, for you, migraine, sleep, no issue anymore?
The migraines, no, they're not really an issue anymore. Yeah. It's interesting because over the years I've experimented with nootropics and different supplements, and actually one nootropic, I won't mention it, definitely nobody on the high end side, brought my migraines back for a little while.
Oh gosh.
It altered my brain waves in a certain way I started getting the migraine threshold, but it's just phantoms of what it used to be.
Yeah.
So that's not really, migraines aren't an issue for me anymore. Sleep is so amazing. Anybody out there that's ever suffered from it and now gets it, they know what I'm talking about. Anybody absolutely out there that's in their 30s and 40s, definitely in your 20s, you think you can go without the sleep, and you think that's not negatively registering in your system and you can catch up one day. It doesn't work that way.
No.
I thought, being tired during the day was just a form of weakness. So I just didn't allow it, and I just kept pushing and pushing.
Yeah,
and I was when I was in my mid 30s, I was a bodybuilder.
Okay.
I was stacked up about 240, 245, and you do a workout fuel in the morning, you get on a high RPM and you stay there all day. With 3, 4, 5 hours sleep. That's not the way to live. You don't do that.
It does damage eventually. Yeah, it does.
Well,
absolutely.
It just stacks up against you, and it stacks up in you can read that in your nervous system.
Yeah.
I've got great organs. I've got great eyes. But my nervous system, you could light off a bomb next to me and it won't bother me because I'm kind of trained for that.
Yeah, right.
But I stay in sympathetic stress. You think you're Zen when you're meditating and you're saying Zen things, but you're not Zen because your parasympathetic system's in the tank, and your sympathetic system's jacked up. So sleep, though, my HRV scores can be 20, 30 points higher, or percentage, because it's on a 100-point scale, the ones that I monitor, just from getting an extra hour to hour and a half sleep.
Right.
And on my website, there's lots of data showing with some of the quantifying technology, just the difference in my HRV based on getting that extra hour and a half, 2 hours sleep, 6.5 hours sleep. If I get a 6.5 hours sleep, I'm out of gas, 2-3 hours after I wake up. I start hitting that lull. And I'm not a coffee drinker.
Right.
I'm not an energy drinker. I don't do anything like that. So I just kind of push through it. But if I make myself get back to sleep for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I wake up feeling, literally almost superhuman.
Right.
You just feel so good. So 8 hours sleep. 8 hours sleep is a mandatory for me. And that's almost impossible because I've got a ranch out here. We're off grid this time of the year. When it gets down to 5-10 degrees, minus 20 degrees, I wake up at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, stoke the fireplaces. We got 4 to keep the house warm. It's not it's a decent sized house, so then that's after 5-6 hours sleep. So I try to get to bed by 9:30.
Right.
You're awake after that. So I use the device. I might have to reactivate it sometimes 3 times just to get myself back out. But then I get back to sleep. Get back to sleep like 4:35, sleep till 6:30 or 7, and boom,
you're feeling great.
I'm ready to rock. Yeah.
Well, that's a good
on the new website. We've got a lot of.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I was saying that's
a little delay here.
That was a great lead in because I was going to ask. I always ask what one piece of advice you can give somebody that's in a situation where sleep issues, and they're struggling. Where to start? Would you direct them right to the deltasleeper.com and start educating themselves there?
That's a great information tool.
Yes.
What I say, everybody, the first thing you want to do, definitely want to get more sleep. Now, I'm a connoisseur of sleep, so to speak, but love and sleep, if you can find true love, man, go for it. You can do without a little bit of sleep for that. I mean, that's the sacrificial lamb for sleep, that could be love.
Right.
That'll drive you and do things for you that nothing else, no money, anything can do. So I encourage people to find true love, especially with yourself. But on a sleep aspect of things, it's a balancing act. You got, I got family, I got business, I got ranch, I got predators. There's even a story on my website about a bear attacking in the middle of the night, killing livestock.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, you can see it on the heart rate, on just everything. But, that balancing act between family, sleep, work, and taking care of yourself, you might be able to bang yourself against a wall for 15, 20 years. I mean, most people on a 15, 20 year horizon don't care about the day to 15, 20 years from now.
Right.
But I'm that guy, when I was in my 30s, bomb-proof, getting very little sleep, working out, partying, living, diving, making money, spending money, 20 years later, I've got a young family, a beautiful wife. I've been with her 18 years, a 13-year-old daughter, 11-year-old son. And I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have partied that hard for that long.
Yeah, right.
I should have maybe slept more, take care of myself more, because my nervous system's still really challenged right now. I mean, I don't have tics and I'm not running around twitching, but how strong is my nervous system? How strong is my heart? I've got to go the distance now. I'm thinking 30, 40, 50 years down the line now. So sleep is a critical aspect of that because, when you're sleeping, when you're in stages 1 and 2, that's your light sleep stages. Stage 3 and 4 is your deep sleep stages. That's where your body is repairing.
Yep.
And then, stage 5 REM sleeps when your electrical system, your brain, everything, your bioelectrics part of your body is healing. That's where you're storing memory and storing intelligence and storing information is that REM sleep. So, don't cheat yourself out of that. And 7 hours sleep, that's pretty admirable. You can get by with 7, and still be healing the body and healing the brain and getting enough sleep. 8 or 9, definitely. Wow. So what the SR1 sleep device can do is it can get you over the curve. It can get you out of a black hole of issues. It can show you where your issues are. Like, case in point, physicians using the device, women over 30, they start lowering their testosterone lowers. They start gaining more weight. It's harder to get it off. They think it's a progesterone issue, but is it progesterone?
Right.
Or is it estrogen? What the physicians are telling me is the women don't have a progesterone issue. They're just estrogen dominant. And it's resisting the effectiveness of the device. So when they start treating the female patient for estrogen dominance, then the progesterone levels balance back out, and the sleep device becomes very effective, and boom, they're sleeping, they're recovering, so the device with an application like that, man, that's priceless to be able to offer that to somebody, so
it's life-changing.
I've gone back to the board. I've kind of beat the desk and said, man, we got to get this price point down. It's $499.
Yeah.
If it was $200 or $299, we could get them in just about every home. And they're like, well, it's not that easy, So I've tried. The price points at $499. It's probably going to stay there. We offer 5% discounts, here and there, different, different personalities that use the device and offer it to their readers and whatnot, and I've got a 5% discount. Just reach out to me via email. But for $499, when you look at what people spend on supplements and energy drinks, coffees, whatever. I'm not against coffee. I'm not saying, because good coffee actually is good for you.
Right.
But just and sleep clinic and sleep doctors and job productivity loss and just wear and tear, everything. I mean, there's no comparison on the money. It's an investment. There's no comparison on the money spent versus the return of investment. Getting the benefit back. So.
Well, if you're struggling with sleep, if you're struggling with sleep, that you're miserable, and that's an investment worth every cent and more. I mean,
it is, and I've had to buy the device myself, and a lot of my clients, they're like, man, it's worth every penny. Actually, you could probably charge more. I'm like, that's okay. I'm just glad you're doing well. Yeah. So when you finally experience that level of benefit, what's the investment worth? And just not sleep disorders, overall health and wellness, just helping people improve their sleep to recover better, athletes recovering better overnight. We got a big campaign going right now with Whoop. They've got a lot of athletes, primarily athletes, that they use their Whoop band on. And, showing that improved recovery with better sleep, longer sleep, deeper sleep, it's critical. So it's like the super supplement sleep is. So you're this big wave right now on the awareness with sleep hygiene and sleep improvement. It's really getting out there. It's hitting critical mass.
Absolutely. Well, I read a story on Steve Nash, the best Canadian basketball player ever. Steve Nash, the point guard that used to play, he played into his, I think he was, I can't remember if he was 40, 41, but he said the change in his whole career came when he religiously got 8 hours of sleep. He decided, several years, 5 or 6, 7 years left in his career, he started experimenting with his sleep. He got 8 hours, no matter where he was, what he did, he always got 8 hours. And he said it changed his life completely. I mean, he became a better athlete. He was the MVP of the league NBA one year. It's just amazing. So
you got to send me that link.
I will. The Steve Nash sleep story. I will. Yeah. Well, Michael, I can't thank you enough. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your knowledge. I thank you for sharing your story. And I encourage to reach out to Michael. You can reach him on deltasleeper.com, but you can reach him through his email at michael@deltasleeper.com. I encourage you, if you have any sleep issues, if you resonate with any part of his story, to reach out to him. A wealth of knowledge and a great guy. So, Michael, thanks so much for being on the show.
Awesome. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to be here. Thanks, man.
Thank you.